Hello and welcome to London Real. My name is Brian Rose, and joining me in studio, as usual, is my main man, Mr. Nic Gabriel, and our guest today is Shame. How are you feeling about Shame?
Man, so we're speaking about the movie Shame.
Yes, we're talking about the movie starring my new lover, Michael Fassbender, and directed by Steve McQueen, just out recently. By the way, we're going to be spoiling the hell out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, hit pause, go watch it, and then play this because it'll be a lot of fun to listen to.
Email us to let us know your thoughts about it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Before I get to the shame, let me just thank Onnit Labs, makers of Alpha Brain, and now Shroom Tech Sport. We just got it in the mail. Like literally, Nic walked it up to me, and that's the Shroom Tech Sport. It's with the what's the mushroom?
Cordyceps.
The cordyceps mushroom.
I really want to try that one. Actually.
Yeah, and I'm training hard tonight. Actually, I got a big kettlebell session. I'm going to pop some of that and see how that goes. Also, we got some Shroom Tech Immune for anyone who's not training as much. And, of course, Alpha Brain, our usual, making you feel great every day, making the brain work.
Dude, I wish I could be you and just be that dude who can afford to, buy all the new supplements and spend his life going to personal trainers. How do I make this happen?
You have, 30 bottles of supplements, because I know, because you had me buy them. You should plug your supplement as well. But anyways, if you want to get any of these products, you go to onnit.com and type in London Real, and you get 10% off. Also, if people don't know, if you're unhappy with a product, all you have to do is tell them that and they'll refund it. You don't even have to send it back or anything. So if you don't like the product or whatever, you're not happy with it, just do that. But anyways, check it out. And in the meantime, I'm really curious what Nic has to say about this movie. I've been a big fan of the director, Steve McQueen, since his first movie came out, Hunger, which I just gave Nic a copy of, and I think he just threw it away.
Don't know what you're trying to do to me.
And I knew this movie was coming out. We knew it would be heavy. Nic and I were actually talking about it last week, and I know...
Man, I watched the trailer, I've been watching the trailer for about 3 months now, and
really?
Just the trailer, I'd watch it and I'd be like, fuck. This is trying to tell me something.
I watched the trailer actually last night. I'm just getting ready for this because I don't like watch trailers before I watch movies because I want to go in not knowing anything. Like in the movie, for example, that girl that was his sister, I didn't know that was his sister, so it was good not to know that. I thought it was an ex-girlfriend or something that showed up at his house.
How long into the movie before you realized that it was his sister?
Well, there's at one point in the movie where he comes home and there's a woman showering in his bathroom, but I didn't get it for a while until she was on the phone talking to a boyfriend saying, I miss you, I miss you, I miss you.
Yeah.
And they're very unclear about it, aren't they?
I mean, I'd read before that it was his sister, and I wish I hadn't, because hearing you say that, it's quite ambiguous, because when he walks in on her showering in his apartment, she just stands there naked for a while, and brothers and sisters don't do that. I mean,
or do they?
Well, I don't do that with my sister, dude. Take that to the bank.
Same with me, by the way. That was Carey Mulligan, her first nude scene, and she's refused to ever do that before. But she's like, it just felt right, and it was right. Anyways, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm not sure, but that we're jumping right in the middle. But there's the movie roughly it's termed as being about a sex addict, and I think I actually disagree with that. But
Me too.
You
Strange
do.
You say, yeah.
Okay, interesting. It's like a 30-something-year-old kind of dude. I was about to say alpha male dude, but I hate that term now. It's just
I think he's more Sigma than Alpha though.
Sigma. Okay, I want to hear what that is later. I was going to give him a rough plot. He's in New York City. He's single, and he just seems to be having lots of ambiguous relationships. I'm not quite sure what it is. He's successful, has a nice apartment, blah, 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 blah. And then his sister shows up.
Sounds like a guy I know.
Oh my God. Dude, what's a Sigma male, by the way?
So you know how there's this spectrum or this classification of males into alpha and beta. Alpha being the more leader type, leader of the pack or the leader of the group, the social group. And then beta is more the person subservient to the alpha.
Right.
But apparently I found out a while back that there's a third classification that's used in social theory, which is the Sigma.
Okay.
And the Sigma is kind of like the lone wolf. He kind of operates outside the pack. So he's not above anyone, but he's not beneath anyone either.
Okay, interesting.
And I thought that was kind of cool. I think Fassbender's character in this movie,
you're right. He's not a leader of men, is he?
He's not. And there's that one. I mean, his boss is such a douchebag in that film. God damn, what a douchebag! There's one scene where
how many of those exist out there?
His boss walks in and pats him on the ass.
Oh, did I miss that?
Oh, dude, you could see how jarring it was for the character, because he was like, I think he just hated his boss full stop. And
right.
He just couldn't bear to be around him. He was such an idiot.
I couldn't believe there's a point where there's a point where his sister comes home, Sissy I think is her name, and Brandon is the main character, mm-hmm. and they go out together with his boss, and his boss ends up taking her home to Brandon's house and has sex with her.
Yeah.
While Brandon's
dominance display, right?
Yeah, while Brandon's in the other room. But I mean, I wouldn't let anyone do that to my sister in my place. I mean, like, how much did he need at his job?
Yeah, that's true.
Or is that just, I don't know, I guess we learned a lot.
I was thinking about that a lot as well.
You were?
Yeah, that was fucked up.
And he starts taking his clothes off, and I didn't know what the hell he was going to do. He starts taking his clothes off. I thought he was going to start touching himself. I didn't know what he was going to do. I was a few moments in the movie where I was like, fuck, holy shit, what the hell's going to happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. But what were your overall impressions? I know you sent me a nice text message after you saw it, and you said, what was it? You said, fuck you, man?
It was painful to watch, Brian. It was really difficult to watch that film. I mean, you called me right afterwards, and we spoke about it a little bit, and you really you gave me such an interesting perspective on it. There's this one scene in the film where he has that threesome.
Yeah.
And man, it was one of the most difficult sex scenes I've ever had to watch. And you were saying how what it made you feel is what it made you realize that everyone has this animal part of themselves that they're not very comfortable or happy about.
Yeah.
And I really, after you had said that, I realized that that's probably why I was uncomfortable when I was watching it, because, man, it was bestial. That's the only word I can think of when I'm recalling that scene.
Yeah, that's why I love a movie like that or a director like that, because he makes you as an audience member like participate in the experience. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even just make you participate. Like, I wasn't thinking, it wasn't empathy. I wasn't feeling empathy for him. I was feeling not shame in myself, but I just felt like as a human, we're all these just like savage creatures, and we're all trying. It's like all fleeting. Like, we're trying to get something. Like he was trying to have sex, and you see there's a scene with two other girls, and it's filmed like no other lovemaking scene, because in movies they're usually, it's either a rape scene or it's a beautiful sensual scene, and it shows like close-ups of his face when he's like having sex with these girls, and he's like, I don't know what the hell. I don't even know if I could look at him, but it was just like his anger and frustration. And he was like, and this is after a night binge of like sexual encounters for him. This wasn't like that. And I don't know. It made me feel like human and, I don't know, vulnerable, or I don't know what it was.
Vulnerable was a good one.
That's not the right word though, is it?
Man, the thing I find interesting is you said you don't think it's about sex addiction, or you don't think his character's a sex addict, and I agree with you. I have a few theories, and I guess no one except Steve McQueen or the script writer or the actual Fassbender knows what they were trying to portray. But I thought, like, he seems to me either someone who's using sex as self-flagellation.
Okay.
I think
to hurt himself, you mean?
To hurt himself. I think like he feels so empty after he's like had this meaningless sex with these chicks, and that pain that he's inflicting on himself is kind of, his sister says to him, one of my favorite lines in the film. She says, "We're not bad people. We just come from a bad place."
Right.
And there's some part to the story which was never revealed. Like, I think they had maybe a bad childhood or something like that, and part of me thinks that maybe every time Fassbender like goes out and fucks a stranger and gets that like feeling of just complete disconnection, that's his kind of I don't know, his way of trying to cleanse himself. It's maybe some sort of catharsis for him. I'm not sure.
To cleanse himself or hurt himself.
Well, I mean, self-flagellation, it's my understanding that self-flagellation is a form of catharsis.
Is that like was it Martin Luther that did that back in the
a bunch of weird Christian and religious sects do that. But I mean, self-flagellation doesn't actually have to just take the form of physical actions that you inflict upon yourself. I mean, man, I know there's been periods in my life where I've mentally self-flagellated myself, like many times. So
just beat yourself up mentally for something.
Loads of times, dude. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I continue to do it, God, that's a really interesting thing. And you don't even know you're doing it.
No, sometimes I know I'm doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember there was this the lowest period in my life. I was going through a really difficult relationship, and I was just in a very, very lonely place. And I remember, like, I'd wake up in the morning, and it's almost as if my mind knew what thought would cause me the most pain, and it would just start whipping me with it from the minute I woke up till the minute I went to sleep. The same thought. And I mean, that's actually one of the big reasons I got into meditation, is because I realized, fuck, I have no control over my mind. It's this thing that's controlling me, and I need to really put it in its place, in its box.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tough.
Interesting. I found when I started training jiu-jitsu, when I would just go full out rolling with someone, I could get my mind to a place where I wasn't thinking about my life, and afterwards it just calmed me the hell down. So I understand what you mean with meditation.
What did you, I that's one of my theories, is that it was self-flagellation. What did you think was, because there was clearly a flaw in Brandon's character in the film, or at least that's the way it seemed to me. What did you think it was?
I felt so strange. I walked in that movie theater, and I always like to sit in like the second row, really close to the screen, just because no one's around me. And there was a dude behind me, and I felt like I was almost in a peep show when I was in there. And I've actually never been to a peep show where the guys are like, touching themselves in a theater. But I felt kind of like a dirty, voyeuristic way from the very beginning, from that shot where he's laying in bed. Yeah. And I love that first 5 minutes, by the way, just the way Steve McQueen does these long shots. He does like a 4 or 5 minute sequence where you're staring at something that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And, him walking around naked in his flat, and it's just like raw. But, I knew it was going to be hard to watch. I felt really uncomfortable at the end when he has his sexual binge. I was just like, I could barely watch it. Which is rare for me. And afterwards I felt, I didn't feel very good for a couple hours, and,
but still, so my question is, what do you think was the motivation or the flaw that was causing him to have this pretty deviant, I guess you could call it deviant sexual behavior?
Yeah. Right. I think, it was interesting because Fassbender just had another movie come out that was based on a real character. I forgot the name of the movie.
He plays Freud.
Was that it? Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, A Dangerous Method. I think it was. Yeah. Method, yeah. So he plays that, and then it was just a screenplay written by Steve McQueen and another woman, Abby something. So there was no backstory. There was just a screenplay. So he just had to stick to it, and they give you little snippets of his past through like something she said. She says, "Well, we're not bad people." I thought, did she say we came from a bad place, or bad things happened to us?
No, she said we're not bad people. We just come from a bad place.
Okay, so you can. And the other thing I noticed in the movie was there's a lot of build up to the sex, but the sex itself is either not shown or shown in a horrible way, and he's empty afterwards. He feels crappy afterwards. Like he has like a seduction with that woman, the blonde he meets in the bar that his boss is hitting on at first, and then she picks him up in the car, and then they have this. She was hot, dude. She was hot, yeah. And then they had this just like kind of nasty, unfulfilling sex where you don't see anything beautiful, and it's. And I read one review about it, and I think I agree with it, that this movie it's almost about greed and almost our consumer society. We want more and more and more, and when we get it, we're not happy. You want something, and when you get it, you're not satisfied. And like that's what he reminded me of. And he was just addicted to something, just I don't know, so carnal, that he just couldn't fulfill it.
That's interesting. Something else I was thinking about. Okay, so we've got, I think could be the self-flagellation. I really like that theory that it's like it's a mirror of the rampant consumerism that like affects especially places like America. But another thing I was thinking about is what McQueen's is the word cinematography, the way the film was shot. Yeah. The thing that kind of I really felt that New York City was a very empty, lonely, soulless place when I saw that. And I think that Fassbender, or Brandon's character, is that he's not a sex addict. He's just trying to connect. He's so lonely. He's just trying to connect through any fucking method possible, any sexual method possible. And that final scene when he like walks to the water's edge and he just breaks down crying. Yeah. I think it's because he's like, I just cannot connect with anyone.
Right.
And I felt that sometimes in living in a place like London, even though London's not as intense as New York City, but man, big cities are inherently quite lonely places to live. Man.
They are. I was watching an interview when McQueen originally wanted to film it in London, but he said that he tried to research and talk to sex addicts, but he said no one would talk to them in London. He's like, no one would come out and actually say, yeah, I have this problem. So he went to New York and he found some therapists and they put him in touch with some real live sex addicts and they talked to him and then he's like, well, why don't we shoot it here? And I was thinking that first scene where he's on the subway, where he's eyeing that girl on the subway, it's just got this empty, lonely New York feeling. You couldn't film that on the tube, because on the tube in London, it wouldn't feel that rough and raw, I don't think. And I know I know, and it was a mood of that film that it was just, and I do feel that way about New York for a bit. It is a kind of a lonely, hard city and a hard place to connect. And I think he was lacking like intimacy or something. It's funny.
One scene where he went on an actual date, the only date he was in the film.
I want to hear what you think about that.
Well, I found it quite interesting because he went, then ultimately they went to a hotel room and a few scenes later, him and this girl, and this was the only female that he'd ever come close to a kind of connection with in the film, besides his sister, obviously. Yeah. And he couldn't go through with it. I mean, he couldn't get hard or whatever it was that happened. And it shows how he had created this massive gulf between sex and emotion that he just couldn't cross. Yeah. Which was fascinating. And the strange thing, I think you might have said it to me once, but like, I think good art causes a lot of self-reflection and introspection. And man, I've seen that in myself so many times. Like, it might not be in sex, or it might be in some other thing, but often like, I cannot pair emotion with events. Like, I have to, events or actions, I guess is a better word.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, like sometimes I'll be having an argument with someone, and I'll feel all these emotions starting to rise, and I'll just literally I'll try to go into like a meditative state and just focus on my breathing and just completely disconnect or detach all emotional involvement from the interaction I'm having with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And sex as well. Sometimes you meet a girl and you just, like, you can't even look them in the eye. It's like the Japanese, I think in the East it's quite different. Japanese people look at sex as like another bodily function, like eating, or going to the toilet. Okay. And man, sometimes for me sex is like that as well. It's just something I have to do. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Have you experienced some of it?
I think I guess if you say that, that's interesting what you say about the East and the West. I guess it's the Judeo-Christian, upbringing of this whole, sex is taboo type thing. Even if you're not religious, our society is kind of built on that. Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you talk about he's on that date and he's like not even that guy. He's not the guy you see the rest of the movie. He's on the date and he's not macking. He's not killing it. He's not trying. And in the other scenes, he's like, leering at these women and owning these women with his eyes on the subway.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
And on the scene with the date, he's like uncomfortable. He almost didn't go to the date, right? He was late. Yeah. He was like looking outside the window. And you're right. He's like, he couldn't separate sex from, or maybe he couldn't join sex and intimacy.
Couldn't join, yeah. I didn't think about it that way. But now that you mention it, I'm thinking about, or I'm recalling that scene. Yeah, he wasn't the same person on that date. And if you think about how he was around her, this girl who he kind of had some sort of emotional interest in, and then remember that scene in the bar where the girl walks up to the bar and he is just pure sexual predator. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was almost schizoid if you think about it.
Yeah. And it's so weird. And so then when he has a date with this girl in the office, and then nothing happens at the end, and then he grabs her in the office, takes her to a hotel room, and you see it. He does like a line of something, takes a drink, and you can see he's like, okay, now I'm in fuck mode now, and he's like going in to do what he normally does, and he just can't do it with this woman because he had some emotional attachment to her.
Yeah, maybe. He didn't even have some emotional attachment. I think just the mere possibility that he could find himself liking her scared the fuck out of him.
Because they talk about that on the date. She's like, what's the longest relationship you've been in? And he says, 4 months. Yeah. And she says, well, you have to work at a relationship. No, sometimes you have to work at a relationship. No, she says, sometimes you have to give it a try to see if it's going to work. And he's like, I did give it a try for 4 months.
It was insane.
Do you think of yourself in that scene at all?
But dude, I mean, my longest relationship was 7 years.
Okay. So no, you're dodging the question.
No, I mean, I don't know what to say, Brian. So yeah, one of the scenes. Let me just dodge it even more. One of the scenes
seemed like a perfectly rational answer by Michael. By the way, when he said that 4 months, he's like, "Yeah, I completely understood where he was coming from."
Yeah. I mean, he said some pretty rational things at that scene at the table when he was like, she was like, she said she had been married, and he was like, he wasn't impressed, and she was like, "Oh, you don't believe in marriage or something?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just don't think it's realistic." And
he's like, "I don't see the point of it.
I just don't see the point."
Yeah.
And the more I think about it, I'm just like, I mean, I read a long article last night on marriage, and the aggregate statistic, or the aggregate of all the statistics, says that marriage in the US and England has a 13% success rate. 13% success rate. Wow, that's the aggregate of a bunch of different statistics. And now failure is characterized or defined by infidelity, divorce, and I think he also put happiness in another as one of the statistics as well.
Then I believe that statistic.
And dude, I don't know. I think for some people, it's amazing. It's fucking amazing. I was always that guy. Like, you'd watch those scenes in a film where, like that film, The Notebook.
I didn't see it.
Oh, great film. Anyway, it's about this guy and this girl are madly in love, and then a bunch of events transpire which keep them separated, and then ultimately in the end they get back together and their love is kindled. And I mean, did you ever watch that movie? What's it? Disney movie with all the balloons, that Pixar movie, Up.
Oh yeah.
Now, you know that scene in the beginning where
it's like the marriage of him and his wife.
Yeah.
It's like 5 minutes in the beginning, and you see his whole life story with her. Right?
Exactly. Now, what did you think of that?
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. I mean, I cried, dude. The first time I saw that, I cried. I wasn't like weeping uncontrollably, but. Man,
gotcha.
It was really like, yeah, it was a beautiful thing, and
we all want to believe in that.
We all want to believe in that, Brian. But like, I'm starting to realize that part of growing up and part of being, more importantly, a man, is just facing the harsh realities of life. Just facing the fact that, man, maybe like this flesh that we're using to experience this this physical or this human game. It's hardwired, or it's encoded with certain desires and urges and impulses, and maybe this girl who I find incredibly beautiful and I think that I'm deeply in love with, maybe her pheromones are not going to have that same effect on me in 6 months or a year or 2 years, or maybe she's going to see some other guy who flicks some switch in her brain and causes her to lose attraction for me and go after him, and maybe like the happily ever after with the white picket fence and 2.2 kids and the swimming pool. Maybe that's just a false ideal, man. What do you think?
I mean, I was thinking of my grandparents when you're talking about that. Like my mother's father, my grandpa Benedict and my grandma Benedict. I mean, like, visiting them and seeing them together in this, marriage. And I mean, that was important to see and to grow up around. And it wouldn't have been the same if I had just gone to see my grandpa, and like this whole nurturing family thing was just as a beautiful thing as a child to see growing up. My parents were divorced, so I never saw that with them. But, so that makes me think it's an important part of a child's growth is having a male and a female caregiver. I do believe that's important.
There's
maybe
a
you can achieve that a different way, or with a village. Hillary Clinton's book, It Takes a Village,
Yeah, I mean, I have a few things to say on what you just said. The first is, man, I think we live in a different age. I think people are too individualistic now, especially women. And I really do believe that kind of setup or that kind of relationship from that bygone era kind of required subservience, or the woman's subservience to the man. And I'm not making a value judgment on that. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, but it seems to me that that's how it worked best.
When I saw that movie, I thought of Afghanistan, where they grab the girl at like 13 years of age, and maybe she's traded, maybe I'm saying this wrong, but fuck it if I am, and there's a dowry, and then she's with that man for her life. And I was just thinking how that's so different than what we saw in the movie, where there's a guy, an anonymous male that's, paying for sex, having anonymous sex, having whatever, and just how culturally that probably couldn't happen in a place traditional.
It's, I guess, sex is a commodity that's been bought and sold for as long as humans have been on the planet in one way or another. And I'm reminded of one of my favorite, look, I've never used a prostitute. I'd happily admit to it if I had. I've never done it.
Okay.
But
maybe you should try it, and we'll talk about it next episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the show. Huh? But this
sponsored by Alpha Brain.
What's that saying? you don't pay them to stay, you pay them to leave.
That's what Charlie Sheen used to say.
And dude, sometimes like, you know, like I'm sure you've experienced it. You'll have hooked up with a woman and like you just don't even want to look at her. You literally just
like afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, is this something you've not experienced?
No, I have experienced that.
Okay,
yes,
so,
I have.
I mean, like, and we're all taught to believe that okay, you grow up and you'll meet someone who you love forever, and like sex is this. Well, this is what I was taught to believe: is that sex is this beautiful experience that happens between two people, and that should only be saved for marriage. And that's bullshit, dude. That's bullshit. There's many different routes and paths and ways we can follow in life.
True.
It's in all aspects, sex being one of them. So what may work for the Afghanistani tribal community probably doesn't work for the super hedonistic, individualistic New York yuppie community. I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting what you were saying there. I had a thought and then it escaped me. Oh, what was I thinking about? You know, you talk about kind of maybe you meet a girl and just have sex with her and there's not a lot of there's not a lot of feelings with her. And I just find that in my past, the good sex has been with people I have a strong emotional connection with. And then just the
That's
whatever.
So interesting.
Yeah, for me, it's a big deal. And the bad sex or unmemorable is just with someone I don't know very well or don't care about. And more importantly, they don't care about me. And for me, it's like a scale of 1 to 10. It's that much of a difference for me.
I found, I mean, sure, emotional connection is cool, but strangely, I found that the best sex I've ever had has been when I've had an intellectual connection with a girl.
Interesting.
Yeah, I find that interesting.
I do find that interesting too. Yeah, maybe I think intellectual and I go emotional, or maybe it becomes emotional once they stimulate you intellectually. But I just find that whole date that he was on just really fascinating. That whole life he led, and I was also thinking about like technology, you know, with all that on-demand porn we have and all that stuff that. You know, if that shaped part of his behavior, you know, could he have done that 50 years ago? I guess he could have found some way to do it, but it was just so much easier with, you know, downloading on his, you know, there's that one scene where his sister opens up his laptop and he'd been in a live chat room with some naked chick and she sees her on the webcam and she's like, oh, who are you? Are you Brandon's girlfriend? Would you like to lick my titties? And she's like, what the fuck?
That was weird.
Yeah, that was beautiful. What'd you think of her and that whole relationship, the brother-sister thing? I mean, you have a sister, I have a sister. It's a, you know. It
was, you know, the strangest thing, Brian, is I saw so much of myself in that character. I mean, good and bad, you know. And
I think everyone did.
Everyone does. But funny enough, she reminded me so much of my little sister in certain ways. I mean, my little sister isn't some fucked up dependent chick who doesn't have a job or anything like that. Okay. But you know, my sister and our bond is quite similar. You know, we both went through like a very difficult thing with our parents and the marriage and all. And I think my brother as well, those are the only people who can really relate to me about that, because they're the only people who went through the same thing. It's just, I'm sure, in the same way that you and your brother are the only people who can really relate to each other about what you guys went through. I mean, all families are so different, and especially families that have conflict like that. And it's such a personal, raw experience, especially for a child, that And
that relationship you have with a brother and sister, it's like no other relationship, because you've both watched each other go through all the same things. You could argue your parents don't know you as well as your sister, because your sister has seen, and you guys have both kind of felt the emotions coming from your parents, whether it was divorce or drama or whatever. And so I love how he threw her in the mix, so you could see him reflected through her, because without that girl in the house, you wouldn't be able to see, you know, their strained relationship, problems with him and stuff like that.
She was pretty much she was the mirror to him, right? Like how you notice how when she hooked up with his boss, and then afterwards he was like he was making some judgment on her for it. She was just reflecting an aspect of him back at himself. You know,
I thought about that briefly.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting.
She just had casual sex, didn't she? And that's all he's doing.
I mean, he'd do it far worse than she. I mean, she at least knew the boss through him. You know, there was some kind of connection. She'd had a drink with the boss, you know, as opposed to him who just like meet some stranger in the street and bang them in like 15 minutes.
Yeah. We all do that, don't we? Just like you look at someone, oh, look at them, they're a fucking this or that. There's a wine store I go to, and it has a quote up on the wall, and it says, "An alcoholic is someone who drinks as much as you and you don't like."
That's awesome.
It's such a great thing, you know. Cool. Look at that fucking drug addict, and you're like, wait a second. Yeah. Maybe I've been a drug addict at one point in my life.
Man, we spoke about it probably on episode 1 or 2 of the show, but more and more, dude. Whenever someone pisses me off, or whenever there's something about someone that bothers me, now I'm just asking the question, what is it about you that this person is reflecting back at you? And it's amazing how often I can identify something, and once you do that, all the judgment falls away.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
So you find yourself hating someone, or someone really bothering you, and you're saying,
dude, it happens with you. Sometimes you'll do something that'll piss me off, and then I'll sit down and I'll think, okay, fuck. What is this? And I'll like play it through my mind. I'm probably thinking too much about it, and then I'll see, okay, but I do that also all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking about the other day, like, I went silent on you for like 3 days, and I was just like, if fucking Nic did that, I would fucking never talk to him again. And I'm just being a dick. And I was just like, God, yeah. But I think very few people can do that, because, most people, you just get in this like you or hate you, like you or don't like you, like you or don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to someone recently, and they were like, yeah, the boss at work, this and that, and they're not recognizing my professional ability, and they're not giving me the things. I'm like, it's just they don't like you. It's that simple. And I've been there. Well, you like someone or you don't like someone, and then you can't make a rational judgment about their qualifications, whether they're good for business. It's just like, and we as humans, we make these just decisions like that on someone.
There's a statistic which says we form an opinion about someone within 7 seconds of seeing them based on appearance.
Wow.
And then I think we flesh it out based on the interaction we have via verbal means or whatever. So this stuff is pretty primal. It's just like sex, dude. Like your affinity for certain individuals is kind of it's such a primal biological thing over which we have such little control.
Yeah, and we can see that in the film. One thing Fassbender was talking about in an interview, he said, apart from, say, a food addiction, a sex addiction or a sex issue is something that like inhibits your whole being, because unlike smoking, you don't have to smoke to live. You don't have to smoke crack to live. You don't have to necessarily gamble to live. So these are things that you acquire as addictions in your life. But to be for everyone has sex or has sexual attraction as just being part of life, breathing, eating. So to have a dysfunction with that is something that can just really fuck with your whole being, just like a food addiction can kill you. And I mean, you can see this in the movie. That could have killed him. The one scene we got to talk about it, which really uncomfortable for me to watch, is he has an argument with his sister where he basically tells her to get the fuck out, which I understand that feeling.
Dude, if she had messed up my apartment like that, I would have told my own sister to get the fuck out.
Dude, if she would have printed my boss in my place, well, that wouldn't have happened. I would have shot them both and then shot myself. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh, he goes on this binge, and hey, man, he's crazy. He's in this one bar, and this girl comes up to the bar, and her big boyfriend's playing pool, and he's like, I'm going to take you home, and I'm going to do all this crazy shit to you. Of course, she's sitting there listening to him too. But and then he goes from there, and he's like, I think he's just looking for sex or something, and he tries to get into a club, but he's been beaten up by the girl's boyfriend. They don't want to let him in, and then he starts leering this dude across the street, and I'm like, oh shit. And spoiler alert, then he goes into a gay club, and I'm guessing he's never been to a gay club before, and he's walking in the gay club, and I was just like, oh fuck. Don't do it. I don't know why. Is that because I'm homophobic? I don't know. Because no, I think I was noticing he was hitting rock bottom for his addiction. He was like a crackhead stealing his mom's TV, or a junkie trying to shoot a needle into the last remaining vein on their body. And he goes into this gay club and picks up a gay guy, and they whatever. I think, and they do some stuff. And that was really hard for me to watch. I was just like, don't. I was like, don't.
It was difficult for me as well.
Yeah. And then he wasn't done there. Then he goes on to the threesome with these two girls, and that the way the movie was shot. I mean, Steve McQueen he's a fucking genius in my opinion. He's actually, that's his second movie he's made. He was
only his second film?
He was a visual artist before. I think he designed like visual art, and so then he was like, I'm going to make a film, and he made Hunger, the movie I gave you, which is about 1981, the hunger strike that the prisoners did in Northern Ireland. Bobby Sands. These guys starved themselves to death. And there's a scene in that movie that I hope you watch in the next couple of weeks once you've taken a break from Alexander McQueen, where they're putting steaming plates of fresh food next to his bed.
Seriously?
And he is wasting away. And Fassbender like dropped down to like 50 kilos or something scary to play that role. And they're putting like steaming plates of scrambled eggs and bacon next to his bed, and he's not eating. He's refusing to eat until he dies. And I was just like, fuck. And just the way that he shoots these scenes, and he does these long shots. Like, you're used to watching a movie where two people have a conversation and it's like, shot to you, shot to me, shot to you, shot to me. I mean, I made a short film, and so I look at this maybe a little bit more. But that scene when he's in the date with the girl, it's like all one shot. It's like an 8-minute long shot. And it draws you into the film and makes it so real. I mean, even you mentioned it.
I found interesting, like, I mean, I agree with what you said. Those long shots definitely suck you in.
Nobody does them.
But something that I couldn't quite figure out, I don't know if it was the only comic touch in the film and it was intentional, but that weird waiter.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
What was
That was weird. But, you know, that's I've had that waiter in New York, you know? I mean, that's a typical New York waiter, you know? A little too friendly, a little too accommodating.
And a little bit ignorant about the wine and the food he was serving.
Yeah, he poured the wine totally wrong. You don't pour red wine all the way full in the glass. And I mean, it was like a little uncomfortable, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Or
it was
real, or was he kind of interrupting him? He was interrupting him, wasn't he?
Maybe he was just used to humanize the interaction between Brandon and his date.
So it's not romanticized as like some... Yeah, maybe it was...
It was genius because it
was
fit.
Genius.
It really fit. I don't know
genius.
why that waiter was in that scene, but it worked. And it wouldn't have been the same without him.
Yeah, you're right. There were so many scenes. There's a scene when he goes running, where he's running throughout New York.
That was incredible.
And that was one shot, and he runs like 8 blocks or 10 blocks through New York, and it's one shot, and it was just incredible to watch.
That was incredible, man.
And like little things like that, even if you don't know, you don't recognize the cinematography, but it draws you in, doesn't it? Just that non-cut. And I was actually...
I was thinking about that shot, and I was wondering how... they obviously had the camera on, what do you call those things? No, they couldn't have. It must have been in a car.
It must have been in a car. It was a vehicle, not a dolly, yeah.
But just clearing the traffic and making sure the streets and the sidewalks were free.
And the extras and traffic.
It was incredible.
Why do you think about that stuff? You haven't directed a movie.
I did a degree in film, remember, bro?
Fuck, I didn't.
Yeah.
God, man, you never talk about that, you know? You've been on. I remember you told me you've been on movie sets before, and you don't talk about that very much.
Yeah, I didn't really dig it that much. You know what? Speaking about movies, have you ever been to Universal Studios?
Yeah, I actually went on the big VIP tour like a year and a half ago.
Tell me if you. Now, the thing that blew my mind about Universal Studios is, look, I grew up in South Africa, right, and my whole a lot of the formation of my psyche and my childhood was took place around American movies and TV, right?
Okay.
Because that's just the way it was. And
all over the world, I guess.
Pretty much all over the world. Yeah. America exports its culture through media.
And they make a lot of films. There's 300 million people, there's a lot of money, and they produce a lot of volume of films and quality films.
And I went to Universal Studios for the first time 3 or 4 years ago, and you know, when you're on those weird sets, now for anyone who hasn't been there, you'll walk on these, you'll do this tour, and you'll go to some of these movie sets, and you'll see like all these facades, these prefabricated facades of houses and neighborhoods, right? And you'll get this weird feeling that you've been there before, but you haven't. But it's just, you've seen these on all the sitcoms and TV shows and stuff that you grew up with, you know, like, and then you'll go behind the scenes or like behind the set of some other movie, and the thing that really was struck home to me was how fake movies and TV and Hollywood is,
right?
And how, like, you know, I know a lot of the pain in my life, a lot of the delusion and the disappointment in my life has come from the fact that I was expecting things to be like they were on TV when I grew up.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Any examples, or you think it's just a subtleness?
Relationships.
Okay.
You know, as we spoke about in the beginning, and that is definitely one of them.
You look at the typical rom-com coming out of Hollywood, and it's you know, it's an ugly, disheveled, dorky beta male, and he's going out with the hottest fucking girl in the world, and
crazy,
right, and like he's like, I don't know if I really want to date her. It's like, dude, this would never happen. Yeah, are you kidding me? And that's like the typical cookie cutter rom-com, you know, and. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you watch a film and you think about the filmmaking, and I don't think a lot of people do that. I think it's bad sometimes because I'm like, wow, what a beautiful shot. When
the illusion is shattered. When
I should be watching the movie, but
sometimes I find that my enjoyment of a movie is compromised because I'm like. I mean, for me, it goes really deep. I start thinking about like specific shots and the logistics behind them, as we're speaking about the one in New York City. But then I'll think about, I wonder like how they did that effect, or you know what I mean? And then yeah, the illusion is shattered. I wish I could go back to before I knew how and why movies were made and just sit and turn off and vegetate, but I can't.
I know what you mean. I took a course at the London School of Sound, a 6-month course about how to make music and, you know, digitally produce it and all that stuff. And they said, once you take this course, you'll never listen to music the same, because you'll always be like, oh, there's the backbeats, there's the treble, there's the bass. Oh, they're doing this kind of beat. Oh, it's this many beats per minute. And it's true. And it's true about film, because now you think about all those shots. I mean, there's a shot in the beginning, he's walking around his apartment naked, and then he goes and takes a piss. And I was thinking, how much water did he have to drink?
I was thinking the exact same
thing. And how many shots did they do? You can't retake that.
Same thing, yeah.
What's wrong with you? You know, there's a suicide scene at the end where his sister slits her wrists in the bath.
Did you also think that she had jumped in front of the tracks?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was
smart the way they did that.
That was smart the way they did that. There's a few times where I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. Also, when he started taking his clothes off when they were in the bedroom, I really thought he was going to start, you know, jerking off, and that was really going to bother me.
Dude, I thought he was going to jump in and try and join them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When he went for a run, I was really relieved.
Yeah, I know, me too. And so yeah, when there's an early scene where she's standing near the subway, and she's like, she's always trying to get she's trying to get an emotional connection with her brother. That's what she's doing.
That's what she's doing.
Yeah,
I didn't
so
identify
that's
that.
why she stands naked in front of the shower, because she's trying to fuck with him, and he's completely annoyed by her, but he won't give her an emotional connection. So that's what she does, and so she stands by next to the subway tracks in the beginning. I think because he's trying to get attention from him, just like a little sister would, you know. And so there's a scene where he's taking the subway home after his night binge, and it stops. Obviously, there's someone that's been run over on the tracks, and you think it's got to be her, but then you're thinking, okay, it's Steve McQueen. You know, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. So he runs home and finds her with her wrist slit, and he cuts the audio as well. Fucking genius.
That was very smart.
Or it was like some beautiful violin song while she's sitting there bleeding out. And there was an interview with Carey Mulligan, and she had these prosthetic arms put in with tubes to pump blood out of her wrists. And they started filming the scene downstairs when he runs in the building, because that's like a 3-minute long scene. He runs in the building, he waits for the elevator, they watch him up the elevator, he goes down the hall into the apartment, and they started pumping the blood out of her veins when she was down in the thing. She said there was no one in the room except some dude in the bathtub pumping the blood in her. And they start pumping the blood, and for 2 minutes, Brandon's coming up the thing, and then he comes in and she's got blood all over herself. And she said that was the only thing that bothered her in the whole movie. She's like, afterwards, she started crying when she left the set, because she saw what it would be like to be fucking killing yourself, you know.
Yeah, that was such a powerful scene. And
then she wakes up in the hospital and she says, "Shithead." That's what she says to him, right?
I didn't know that. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that's what I saw, because he's with her in the hospital later, and she's like, and then she looks at him, she's like, "Shithead."
But you know, the Carey Mulligan's character, just think if she wasn't in the film, right?
Yeah.
You'd think that Brandon was a complete sociopath, right? But she humanizes him. You can see he cares about her. Ultimately, he does care about her.
I guess he does.
And does
he?
Yeah, of course, bro. Remember when he was trying to like stem the blood flow from her wrist?
Yeah, but was that something any human would do?
He was distraught, man. I mean, I think
he was.
Someone who's just completely. And when he started crying when she was singing that New York song.
Yeah. Why was he crying?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out.
That was a powerful scene as well.
Do you know what I was thinking? One of the reasons he might have been crying is Mulligan's character, or what was her name? Sissy.
Sissy, yeah.
Sissy was expressing herself in such a way that, and Brandon knew he could never do that, or he was maybe forced to see that his life didn't have any kind of aspect like that to it. It was so clinical and sterile. Do you know what I mean? Whereas as she was singing it was such an emotional, heartfelt rendition of that song.
Okay.
And everyone in the restaurant was completely captivated by her, her beauty and her talent. And I think Fassbender, Brandon just ultimately realized that all he is this fucking machine. And he pales into insignificance when contrasted against her. That's what I thought.
Okay, wow, that's powerful. I didn't have time to think about it then. I was just like, okay, I logged that he cried, and then I just kept moving on with the film. Mm-hmm. That's such an interesting scene, because she's singing New York, New York, so start spreading the news, but she's singing it in such a slow way that it's not necessarily a happy song.
Not at all.
You know, these vagabond shoes, and she's singing it like a cappella, and there's no cut. It's like all on her, and there's no music. I mean,
that was another long scene as well.
Yeah, no other director would do that. Yeah. McQueen was saying that, you know, you never really think about the lyrics when Sinatra sings it, you know, start spreading the news, and then she sings it, and you're like, wow, that's actually a sad song. And then he cried. But yeah, I think maybe you're right. Yeah, he is just a fucking machine, right? I mean, that's all he does. He goes to work and does this and has his nice apartment. And
you know what's even scarier than that is, or scary to me at least, is sometimes, I mean, evolutionary biology would have us, and that's a huge, a very interesting field to me, fascinating actually. I read a lot about it, but there is one theory that states that what we are is these big, lumbering gene replication machines, and that everything you see around you, like civilization, art, music, this love that's been packaged to us by Hallmark and Hollywood, is all just to further this objective, this like reproductive capacity of our genes. And that's fucking terrifying, because that is nihilism in its purest form. Yeah,
so that's basically goal number one, and everything else is secondary or tertiary to that. Art would only exist because someone wants to express themselves
in order to attract,
in order to reproduce.
In order to attract and reproduce. And this is something that's been on my mind for a long time. This is one of the reasons I want to take DMT, is I want answers to these questions. I want to know, like, is that our sole purpose, is to ensure the propagation of the species? Because, I mean, as a man,
dark thought,
it's a very fucking dark thought. And as a man, you know what it's like. You know, like evolutionary, we're wired to spread our seed, man. I can see it in myself often. Yeah. Often I'm not in control of my sex drive. You know, I'll see like a woman, that scene with him on the subway. Fuck, bro, that happens to me every day. Every fucking day I'll see a girl and it'll flick these primal switches, you know, and I'll just, you know, everything changes. I start feeling like one of those like sharks, you know, and I have to really like kind of rein it in. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Men are very visual.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And it's just hard. I had a buddy in college, and we would, you know, look at girls, and he's like, you know what, Ryan, it never gets old. And it's just like, fuck, I'm 40, you know, and some like hot piece of booty goes by, and I'm like, I look. Like, there's a scene in the movie where he looks, and the girl, she was going in his apartment building, and she walks by, and he just looks at her ass, and it's just like, fuck.
I mean, how many times have you done that?
How many times have I not done that?
Well, a good friend of mine said to me once, actually it wasn't a good friend, it was someone else, quite a wise man. He said, you know, Nick, women are like ice cream cones. Once you've had one, you just want another one. And like, dude, you know, it's kind of, there is some truth to that, you know, like no matter how emotionally connected or in love with someone you are, man, that thing never goes away.
Yeah.
That fire never goes away.
I know it doesn't.
It's fucking terrifying.
It's funny because, and then you get this like Judeo-Christian, you know, monogamy type culture, and then you see someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger or someone like XYZB, who all are now sex addicts, which is I thought at the time a convenient way of getting out of it. And then I'm like, why wouldn't Schwarzenegger, you know, fuck his household maid, even if she looks like Dracula? You know, of course he would. You know, he's fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He's the ultimate alpha male, right?
Yeah, and it's just, everyone is shocking, and it's like, yeah, I mean, and women can get mad about that, but we are wired in a way that makes us, we're always looking.
But you know what, the part for me that is ultimately the most scary of all, and this was something that was incredibly painful for me to accept, is, you know, we have these thoughts as guys, but women have similar thoughts, maybe not with the frequency and the level of visual like detail that we do, but, you know, no matter how much your girl loves you, or the woman you're with loves you, like, she is gonna want to fuck other guys. There's no doubt about it. She can pretend or say she doesn't want to,
right?
But she does. I mean, these are biological urges. You can pretend they don't exist. You can shove them under the carpet, but they are there. And for me, like, I had to look at my relationships with women and understand that, like, I think ultimately what I was searching for, and I think what many guys are searching for with a girlfriend or with a wife, is they want the replication of their mother's love, right? They want their mother they want that, like, feminine security that, like, their mom's gonna love them like they're a little boy, right?
Okay,
and when you think about the fact that the girl that you're with and that you marry, or that your girlfriend would give that love away to someone, or that love or that physical intimacy away to someone else, you know, it brings up all the insecurities. It's crushing, dude. It's fucking crushing. Well, like,
we know from like laws of attraction that, you know, if if a guy flips the right 20 switches in a row with a girl, whether he's charismatic or successful or whatever it is at the time, or who knows at the time, maybe he just, beat up a mugger, who knows, that she's going to be attracted to him.
Attraction is not a choice.
It's not, whatever else said David D'Angelo. And that is a very difficult thing to accept as a man, isn't it?
Very difficult. Because, if you can flick those switches, another guy can too. Gosh. And it's fucking hard to accept that.
It is
hard.
But
you know what, I'm always on the spiritual kick, Brian, but what I'm starting to think about, and the way I kind of rationalize it to myself and reconcile that new understanding about attraction not being a choice, is, the Judeo-Christian model, monogamy, is actually incredibly limited when it comes to love, because what we're doing is you're saying you're going to meet one person, settle down with them, and love them for the rest of your life, right? And that's it. But why is that better than loving many people? And I think what it comes down to, why so many people struggle to accept that, is because jealousy comes into it. If I can go fuck another girl, right, that means my girl can go fuck another guy. Right. And then that's very difficult, especially for a guy, especially with our caveman DNA, who wants to it's your woman, like seeing, man, I've had times when I've been with a girlfriend and the thought of another guy's hands on her has just been, it's been too much for me to take, bro, really. And I realized ultimately it comes back to my own insecurities. Yeah. And if some other guy giving her sexual pleasure would make her happy, why should I be the one to hold that back from her? Why should I be the one to try? That's just my own insecurities and jealousies.
If it was your best buddy and he was getting laid a lot, you'd be like, good for you, man.
Fuck, that's a great way to look at it, man. That is such a good way to look at it.
If it's your girlfriend, that's not so cool. Yeah. Talk about this nihilism, because I've been accused of being a bit nihilistic. I mean, sometimes I'm like, what the hell is the point of anything? Because what is the point of anything? And
points to be here, man.
How do you deal with that nihilism, or what do you think about it?
The point is just to be here.
Yeah, just to be present.
The point is just there is no end goal. There's no financial, or there's no monetary figure. There's no social group you can develop. There's no career achievement. There's no sexual satisfaction. There is nothing in the future waiting for you that will make it worthwhile. And that's why I think I was nihilistic for a long time, is because I had all these goals and these visions of my future, and when when some of those were taken away from me, like for example,
as they do for everyone.
For everyone, yeah. Then you start thinking, what's the point? And the point to me, and this is my perspective, through what I've been searching for, what I've come to realize is that the point, we always say it's about the journey, man. It's about us sitting here right now, this very second. Right. This is what it's about. It's not about my retirement in 50 or my grandkids I'm going to have one day, or the 2 cheerleaders I'm going to fuck at one time, or whatever it might be. It's not about that. It's about what's happening now.
It's so hard to come to grasp with.
Meditation is the only way, man.
Really?
For me, it's the only thing that's been, something I've noticed. We always speak about meditation, but the more I do it, and I'm really, really getting into it now. I'm doing like 45 minutes a night. I'm starting to experience time. Now, I don't know how else to put it, but if you think about it, time is a dimension that we're moving through. We're sitting here moving through time, and I'll find myself very often realizing that I'm in time. Does that make sense? It's a little bit out there.
No, I think I understand what you mean.
Do you know what I'm saying? And I'd never experienced that before. And when you do that, when you're in that moment, it's so much better than anything you could have possibly imagined or built for yourself in some imaginary or real future.
Yeah. Dude, I'm always been goal oriented in my whole life, and
me too.
And it's hard to knock that, because that's why I'm here today. It's why you have your black belt. It's why you're in London. It's why I'm here. It's why I, went to
why you're loaded.
College. Why I'm loaded. Yeah, all these things. Which if I was living in the moment at the time, I wouldn't be here, or would I? I don't know. And now I'm always thinking, okay, when is London Real gonna be on a major television network and all these crazy stuff? When we need to be present. I mean, this is fun as hell right now. Yeah. So. God, I'm getting better at it, at recognizing just be there in the moment and stop thinking, okay, everything's going to be great when I get this, then it's going to be better. And we all know that when we get that, it's great for about 5 minutes, and then it's not anymore.
And then you start worrying about it being taken away from you.
A lot like Fassbender, And for him, maybe he needed to be about the journey, he was maybe constantly looking for that next sexual conquest or something, and he didn't look like he was having much fun, did he?
Not at all, dude. He looked hollow, he was an empty person.
And that life he had, if you described that life to someone in a book, they would be like, wow, you know, he's living in Manhattan in a fly apartment with a job, and he's going out and drinking shots of tequila and meeting hot women and stuff. But then the reality, or the way they portrayed it, is it was a horrible, hollow, empty experience. Right?
Do you think, though, that it is preferable to being the dude who never gets laid?
Man, there was nothing preferable about that guy's life, man. It was so rough. I mean, it was portrayed in a film, of course, but...
Dude, I guarantee there's people like that out there. Loads of people like that.
Definitely. Fassbender said he met one guy who really hit it home in New York that showed it. He said he was not 10 times, but much, much worse than they portrayed in the movie.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And that's, he said he based a lot of what he was feeling on that, as in a guy that was much more out of control than that. So he said it really exists. He said when he first heard the word sexual addiction, he laughed. He said most people laugh. And that's what the director said. And he said when you start looking into what some of these people are with the internet, which is like crack cocaine for, you know, anybody like that with porn on demand and stuff, he said, yeah, it really exists.
Wow.
I don't think I've known anyone like that. I mean, I've known people that are, you know, drug addicts and sex comes in there and lots of prostitutes and stuff like that. But I never knew anyone who was so focused on that. But then again, maybe they didn't tell me.
You know, someone said to me that you should never trust someone who doesn't have any vices.
Interesting.
And I thought about that a lot.
A buddy in college said that one time. He's like, look, in the fraternities, there'd always be a few guys that didn't drink. And my buddy one time, I was like, oh, I respect that guy if he doesn't want to drink. And my buddy was like, you know what? Fuck him. You know, I don't. And there's something funny about a teetotaler. They have this
An air of superiority.
Yeah, this air of superiority about him that is honestly, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be that guy who would never drink. And looking back, I realized a lot of it was due to my own attempts to control stuff, but my ego's attempts to control stuff. But also, I think the other spectrum is people who cannot enjoy themselves without some kind of alcoholic buzz. That's just as lame, dude.
Yeah, no, that is just as lame.
You know, there's something I keep thinking about more and more, which is walking the middle path. You know, is my buddy Steve speaks about it always, about walking this middle path. You know, you don't have to swing to an extreme in any aspect of your life. There's always a middle path that you can take. And looking at myself, I mean, I'm starting to... I've been an extremist in many aspects.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
I kind of loathe the middle path, but it does get you there, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm not saying be boring or tepid. There's a difference.
Okay.
Right. I'm just, like all or nothing. It's, I don't know.
It's not sustainable, is it really? Dude, that went by fast, man.
Yeah, it was really quick.
Right? I just want to say, dude, thank you very much for seeing that movie. I know it was uncomfortable for you. I know you probably didn't want to. I've suggested it to many of my friends, and they would refuse to see it. And I know a lot of people will not see it because they're uncomfortable with it. But for me, it's the one movie in the last year I've seen that made me think the most.
Man, thanks for forcing me to see it. I'm happy I saw it.
You are?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, maybe a day later helps. But anyways, thanks for joining us. If I encourage everyone to go see it. It's shame it's in the theaters. Please pay for it because these guys work really hard on it. And
get back to us on Facebook. Leave comments. Like, really would appreciate if you guys out there. I mean, we know we have these fans who always send us emails, but rather than email us, put a comment on the Facebook page or put a comment on our YouTube videos. We really appreciate that.
Or in iTunes as well. There's a lot of people listening to this. We've actually got over 1,000 people each episode listening to this. If you don't know, you can actually watch this on YouTube in case you don't know. But yeah, please leave comments on iTunes. It just ranks us up there in the popularity, and we'll spread the word. So in the meantime...
It's about the journey.
Indeed. Thanks, dude.
Nice one.
All right.